What do you think Zillow's going to do if they're attacked? They're
Yeah.
going to completely change everything, and you won't like potentially the outcome.
If you're not getting educated about local and national real estate news, industry mergers, what Jerome Powell's saying again, or another class action lawsuit, now Zillow's in the mix, you're doing yourself and your client base a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole here with Byron Lazine. We've got a meaty episode today here, Byron. Compass and Anywhere announced one of the largest deals in residential broker history. Zillow has been hit with a class action lawsuit. We've got more Jerome Powell comments after jobless claims data was released this week. And we had an event this week, BAM Camp. I thought it was great. Great job for the whole team. Thanks to Anthony, especially for sponsoring it with Navi Title. We'll unpack that at the end with our key takeaways here, Byron. So we want to get into Compass first, or you want to give a little BAM Camp teaser here?
No, we'll do our BAM Camp recap at the very end, so stay for that. BAM Camp was so electric, Lisa Chinati couldn't make the pod here. I found it interesting that Lisa got such a stronger reaction from the audience than you and I did. There was much more love going in Lisa Chinati's direction than ours, but I don't know. She took all that love and ran with it because she's not here on the pod today.
Well, we're not that likable, Byron. That's probably why. So people, mediocre people don't like high achievers, like Nick Saban said. So, out of the three of us, Lisa's easily the most likable. So this is not a surprise.
Oh, God. All right.
Let's get into this here. That should be our cold open, Bobby. So Compass is acquiring Anywhere. This was announced earlier in the week on the 22nd, and the agreement was revealed in a press release and will create a combined company with an enterprise value of roughly $10 billion, including debt. And the transaction will result in the largest brokerage in the world, merging Compass's brokerage with Anywhere's portfolio of legacy brands. So you got Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Corcoran, Sotheby's, and they're parents of some of the most recognized names in real estate. I think the question is why now? And we've got some insight on this, but I'll read you Robert Refkin's statement here, Byron, then let's get your reaction. So today marks a monumental step towards our mission to empower real estate professionals with everything they need to grow their business and better serve their clients. I have deep respect for Anywhere's leadership, agents, employees, culture, and brands. By bringing together two of the best companies in our industry while preserving the unique independence of Anywhere's leading brands, we now have the resources to build a place where real estate professionals can thrive for decades. Now, here's the deal structure real quickly. Then I want Byron to unload on us here. So each share of Anywhere common stock will be exchanged for 1.436 shares of Compass Class A stock. That number values Anywhere stock at $3.01 per share, and Compass shareholders will own approximately 78% of the combined company, while Anywhere shareholders will own the remaining 22%. Compass will assume $2.6 billion of Anywhere's debt, and to support the transaction, the company secured a $750 million financing commitment from Morgan Stanley Senior Funding. So there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, people have been talking about this. What's your initial reaction here, Byron? You're the real estate industry news person. You follow this stuff closely. Give us your take.
Well, I mentioned it seems like it was weeks ago because of having the BAM Camp event in Scottsdale. The news broke Monday, and it's Friday. I'm back here east. I'm in Naples, and it just seems like it was so long ago. But what's going to seem a lot longer is the time between now. Obviously, it is on the calendar a lot longer, but the time between now and when this deal actually gets finalized. So I think the first thing to understand here is that one, this deal needs to close. There's high penalties if it doesn't. There's some, if you look at the Compass 8K, which describes its agreement and plan of merger with Anywhere Real Estate, Anywhere would owe Compass $200 million if the company backs out of the deal or otherwise causes the deal to just fail. Okay. So Anywhere, which has over $2 billion in debt, isn't going to be in a position for this deal to fall through. Neither camp wants the deal to fall through. Both boards approved it unanimously.
Mm-hmm.
In reverse, if Compass backs out or causes the deal to fail, it would owe anywhere nearly double, $350 million. So the deal is highly likely to close, but their close date, their outside date is September 22nd, 2026. So there's a full year between now and then. Here's what happens over the year. Okay. What doesn't happen is all of Anywhere's deals going private listing, which is, oh my gosh, all these listings now, 300 plus thousand agents, they're all going to be on Compass private listing. Well, none of that happens at all over the next year. What certainly happens is mass confusion across the Anywhere brands, formerly Realogy. Those brands include the likes of Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's International Realty, Century 21, Corcoran, ERA. We've got a lot of friends in all these places. Maybe many of you listening to the pod are some of these places. There's going to be a message signaled that everything's good, it's business as usual. The reality inside of those offices is going to be uncertainty. And one of the core drivers for that uncertainty is leadership at all of these companies. The executive branches at these companies, they're all on the chopping block. So those leaders don't have the stability, the certainty to focus on leading because of being in the middle of this deal. Compass is swallowing over $2 billion of Anywhere's debt. They'll do creative financing to kind of make the books look the way they need it to look, and how they structure this, these brands. They say right now they're going to keep these brands, most of these brands as they are. But if they're going to be, how does Wall Street grade this? Well, you saw Wall Street grading it by Compass's stock going down and Anywhere stock going up. Anywhere's getting bailed out of a bunch of debt. That's great for shareholders. Compass is taking on risk. That inherent risk for shareholders is creating the stock to go down. What Wall Street is concerned about is, okay, how are you going to operationalize this? There's a lot of brands. I mean, and let's be frank, Anywhere has had some back-end issues operating this many brands. Now it's on Compass's plate. And to create efficiencies, a lot of times you see these companies reduce executive count. That also helps the debt. So number one takeaway is we're going to be going into a period of uncertainty, which brings fear. Like if you're, one of these competitors to these brands that is recruiting, not just cloud-based, but just any team or brokerage that is recruiting, there's going to be an opportunity to lean into that fear. And what's interesting is how much of the 300 plus thousand agents at Anywhere, stay for the other side. Obviously, I think a lot will stay to see this deal close, but there will be some that are considering another move. Okay, so there's now a time period of uncertainty as this deal has to get to the finish line. That's going to have to be dealt with. Number two takeaway is when this deal does close, it's going to have an enormous impact on the rules which are being rewritten in our industry today. The rules that are being rewritten include our required allegiance to associations, include how MLSs operate, include how consumers gain access to view and tour properties. Compass has a seat at the table, and it's a main seat. It's an end spot, and they're going to have a loud voice in rewriting the rules, which are happening at rapid speed, and they're happening all around us. and they are being rewritten. We're not going back to 5, 10, 15 years ago. And Compass is going to have a voice in that. And I think that's a lot to do with this deal, is being in position to have a voice in the rewriting and restructuring of the entire industry, which is taking shape. The third point I'll make on just exclusive listings, not a concern. I think market dynamics are going to solve for that. And, what I've always said, obviously it's not right for most sellers. And I think most sellers are smarter than the industry is giving them credit for. Most sellers are going to be like, wait a minute, if I can't get on Zillow here, doesn't really make sense. So those are my three kind of initial takeaways. Obviously, it's been a busy week and I haven't had a chance to dig in as much as I want. I'll dig in more over the weekend. But those are my three, coming back last night on the plane that I was really thinking about. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of great points. So, for Compass, obviously, they're looking to build this Compass exclusive network. So you acquire more agents, you're going to get more listings. We know that the average listing agent, I mean, to be in the top 50% of listing agents, you had to sell 3 listings in the past 12 months. So, I mean, that's the easiest way is agent count, instead of, training folks to do that. I think what also could happen here is there is going to be uncertainty with, when you're in limbo for a year and you don't know what your company's doing or how it's going to look, that's a question.
And when your leaders can't really make you a strong, this is how it's going to look, they don't know.
Well, I mean, I would venture to guess that whatever's going to happen, it's going to be on Compass's terms, not the other way around. I mean, Anywhere's been under some pressure for a while. We were at T360 a couple of years ago, where the CEO of, I guess it was Realogy at the time, Ryan Gorman. I mean, they were asked straight up about their stock price and what's going on. I mean, this has not been a company that's been in a good spot, and part of that may be all the brands they're trying to manage. I mean, you get too many people in the kitchen, it can be a problem. So I think
I think he was Coldwell at the time, but he to your point, the question was about
it was about the larger company, yes,
Realogy stock, yeah,
and it wasn't about Coldwell or anybody in particular. It was the parent company here, and I think there's a question here where where does this leave consumers right now? Because consumers, I've seen them not understand the 3-phase Compass listing launch. They don't get it. They don't know that they're being held off Zillow, and I think that's obviously we've talked about the disclosure on the pod here. I think it needs to be a little clearer, almost like an association form. And if buyers, I mean, that could be a play for Compass to attract more people. I mean, in terms of clients, because of this network that they have and their marketing effort. I get the move from Compass's standpoint. I mean, they were rumored to be buying Berkshire Hathaway. That was proved to be, I mean, who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but they wanted to add agents, which they did here. I think it's a smart move for Anywhere to get out of all this. I mean, the Wall Street reacted appropriately. And I think agents are going to really have to be cognizant how to interview for a listing and interview with clients when you're now dealing with a larger entity that is promoting this Compass exclusive policy in a year. Not now, but you got a year. It's kind of like the NAR settlement, Byron. You have all this time to prepare for it. And there's going to be 2 groups of people. One is the people that woke up last August and said, what do you mean I have to get buyer agreement signed? And we saw some of those people, not at our team, but at our brokerage here. Like they're asking all these questions. I'm like, were you under a rock the past 14 months? I don't understand. And there's going to be others that adjust their pitch. And you've got time now to do this. And, you also want to look at your market, because every market has different powerhouses locally, right? Like, the Naples market versus the Philadelphia market versus Connecticut, Massachusetts. Some of these brands are going to be stronger there, and some of them are going to be weaker. So I would take inventory of who is with these brands and how it's going to impact your business, so that you can be ready and start practicing this stuff now. Start working on the script, start understanding how to make the pitch, whether it's, bringing the Zillow ban article that they have out there, if it's a private exclusive and what that means, showing that to a seller at an appointment. You may say that's a little harsh. I think that's educating a client in a good way because they want to be on Zillow. That's the kind of stuff you need to be ready to do. So I would take inventory of your market and understand that. I talked about a couple agents in my office about this when the news broke. My mentor and my cousin, who's an agent here, and that was the big play. It's like, we got time. Let's figure out how to adjust what we're saying to people to still continue to win business.
Yeah, if there's not a strong presence from one of the anywhere or multiple anywhere brands in your market, then maybe you're not spending as much time, thinking about this and prepping for it over the next year. But I'd probably venture to guess that most markets have a strong presence from at least one of the anywhere brands. Like when I think about who we compete with, for market share rather, in Connecticut market with the team, it's Coldwell Banker and it's Sotheby's. And, so both of these, probably are two, in terms of market share, the two big competitors. There's going to be changes there. Now, one, I think, like I said, over the next year that offers opportunity because there's going to be a level of fear and just, hey, I mean, we keep it blunt here on Knowledge Brokers. I mean, if you're a recruiter out there, friggin' lean into that fear, man. Okay. Because people don't want to wait around to find out the news. They want to get on with their lives. And so there's going to be an opportunity there, just plain and simple. And, then on the other side of it, like what you're talking about, man, when the NAR settlement was announced, like I took over training months before the settlement date of August 17th, 2024, I took over training with the team that I had handed off at that point, 2-3 months before. We started updating different materials and scripting, and we just leaned in hard. And so, hey, why would you change what you're doing? Because the rules of the game are being rewritten. Yep. That's why you would adjust. Not adjusting and creating a better offering or at least alternatives to some of these solutions in the market. Listen, one thing we know about Compass, and if they can efficiently provide these types of offers throughout now the entire footprint across all brands, is they know how to make sexy offers that are attractive, that get consumers' attention. And so your quote unquote, your client who did a deal with you 5 years ago and you think they're just going to call you back, if they get one of these ultra attractive offers and it makes sense for them, maybe you never get the call back. And so this is why repositioning your offer to the market, finding out what really works, what can be an alternative during this time period is just a smart business decision, and you should be doing that.
If your skills don't improve, they erode, Byron. And I think this is a great opportunity to do that. I mean, everyone wants to act like, and I mean, Howard Hanna had actually like a great quote about this. We can talk about his reaction to the merger, but like
who should we have on soon? Like we should maybe have Jill back on.
Jill would be interesting. Karen Peters.
She's one of the top Coldwell. Who else?
Karen Peters. She's with Coldwell up in. I mean, they're big Coldwell Banker agents. The two of them.
I mean, we should get a couple of our friends who are at the very top of the Coldwell Banker ecosystem. We should get a couple of our friends, from Sotheby's and Century 21. We should do that over the next couple of months and just kind of dive in with what they're saying. And if they're coming on Knowledge Brokers, we'll be making sure they don't give us some kind of talking points that they were
bullshit
sent in an
story.
email. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what's the feel? Really what are people saying? I mean, these conversations are already happening, and we're already starting to have some. And you're probably, if you those listening, you're probably having some in your market of instant reactions. People are going to have human reactions, and there's going to be, a waiting period now to see how some of this stuff shakes out. But we'll host some of those conversations right here.
Yeah, and I guess I would, I look at history to tell us what may happen here as we kind of, before we move on to Zillow, and you look at with At Properties and with Christie's being acquired by Compass earlier in the year, what they did was they didn't change the brands. They offered them the tech stack and everything else that they offer everybody else. So I'd imagine it's going to be a similar play. And obviously, maybe they'll have a great listing book, Byron. I mean, is the listing book going to be everywhere now with Compass? Like, I mean, I think there's there's something to this, but I don't think they're going to start changing names because, if I'm an agent and I've been with a company
Well,
and you see the top producers stay places long term, right? I wouldn't be thrilled with having to rebrand everything.
I
That may be
wouldn't
something that
touch.
gets, yeah,
I wouldn't touch Coldwell Banker. I wouldn't touch Sotheby's International Realty. Um, Everything else would be on the table of discussion for me, and that probably right there offends somebody at maybe one of these other brands. I'm just saying it would be open for discussion if I was the decision maker of rolling into, Compass. I'm just taking Compass's perspective here, and okay, I'm not advocating for anything. I'd be open to that. I would not be. I don't think it'd be a smart decision to rebrand Sotheby's International Realty. That holds a lot of weight
it does.
in a lot of markets. And Coldwell Banker, it's obvious brand recognition for a long period of time. So I would be opposed to even considering touching either. There's a lot of advantages. Let's just take Sotheby's International Realty, that brand. One of the advantages to that brand is there's almost a religion inside that brand to keep referrals Sotheby's to Sotheby's. I think they do it the best. Agents within that brand refer inside the brand better than any brand I've seen. And if I think you find out what the real strengths in every brand, and that's just one of those strengths. You find out what the strengths are in all of these brands if you're Compass, and you gotta lean into those and use those. And on the other, where there's the weaknesses, and of course there are those across brands, if you can identify those, you get rid of them. And it'll come down to operational skill set. Compass has made some operational moves that you got to, if you're being honest, you got to applaud. And this is going to be the biggest bite they've ever taken. We'll see what happens.
The other thing with Sotheby's, I've run into this. They have hey, we handle luxury listings. We handle high-end listings amongst the consumer, where I've lost out on business to someone that sold maybe 8 or 9 homes in the past 48 months, but they were with Sotheby's and they were so soon to be a luxury agent. So there is something to that brand. I mean, Byron, you know better than me. So you're absolutely right. And I think there's a couple things to think about there. But this stuff's not going to change tomorrow. That's what everyone needs to realize.
That brand alone in some markets, just the brand can get a seat at the table for a listing pitch. If they're interviewing 2 or 3 and it's a luxury market and they're in that market, I got to interview somebody at Sotheby's is a consumer mindset in some markets. So, and listen, we could go through all the brands and kind of give strengths and weaknesses. I don't think we're going to do that, but
well, just an example.
I wouldn't touch the Sotheby's brand for sure if I was Compass, and Coldwell either. And then I'd, consider everything else.
Well, more to come here. And I think, Byron, you hit the nail on the head. If anything, Compass is playing offense, not defense right now. So I think I do agree. You have to applaud the move. Now, their arch rival, this might be a strong term, Zillow. Obviously, they've targeted them in their crosshairs here with this whole back and forth about listings. Zillow had some other news break this week. So Zillow was hit with a class action lawsuit targeting Flex and Premier Agent programs. It was September 19th. There was a home buyer named Alucard Taylor filed a class action lawsuit in U.S. District Court for the Western District of Washington, accusing the portal of using deceptive practices to inflate home purchase costs. The case is led by Hagens Berman and Cohen Milstein, the same firms behind the Merle Commission lawsuit that ended up with more than $1 billion in settlements. This isn't the first lawsuit or the legal spotlight isn't new for Zillow with the CoStar lawsuit, the Compass's legal challenge to the listing access standards. So here's what we know right now, and the folks at Now BAM did a great job reporting this. The center of the lawsuit is the Zillow Flex referral program. According to the complaint, agents who participate in Flex must pay Zillow up to 40% of their commission on a closed transaction. Now, there's a lot of caveats there. We're both Flex partners, so we know that, obviously. And it alleges this hidden fee is never disclosed to buyers or sellers, even though it ultimately increases the cost of a home purchase. In addition, the complaint claims that when prospective buyers click the bright blue button, contact agent button on Zillow, they believe they're reaching out to the listing agent. Instead, they are routed to a Zillow affiliated buyer's agent. This also points to the same issue with the Zillow request a tour feature. The filing said, quote, Zillow tricks them into signing up with a Zillow agent. If the agent is part of Zillow's Flex program, Zillow gets 40% of the agent's commission, a payment on the back end that is undisclosed to all parties involved. Attorneys argue that this design misleads consumers while also incentivizing agents to prioritize their commission above buyers' interest. This can go on and on here. I think it's, it's kind of the same idea where, there was undisclosed fees, inflating costs. I've got a very clear opinion on this, but Byron, I want to kick it to you first here. This is obviously also big news, and I'm kind of surprised Zillow wasn't in the first round of lawsuits initially. That's just my first thought here.
Yeah, I mean, the attorneys, we'll see what a judge and a jury, and I'm not an attorney, what they think.
Neither am I.
But you have to be a complete idiot. It takes you about 2 minutes to understand that Zillow's flex fee has not created higher home prices. That is a moronic statement. That is stupid. And the attorneys that have positioned this lawsuit in that way don't know what the hell they're talking about. So what it's done is it's reduced, it is compressed compensation across the industry, just like relocation did years ago. If an agent had to produce that lead another way, their cost to acquire that customer wouldn't be zero. There would be a cost probably upwards of 40%. This is where agents kind of trick themselves. Oh no, I don't pay for leads. You don't? How do you generate them? Walk me through how you prospect. Do you have an hourly rate that you value yourself? And by the way, if you consider your hourly rate in this business to be, worthy of 20, just go be somebody's assistant or something, right? Like, what's your hourly rate if it truly is all sweat equity? If you're doing content and, I'm getting leads from social, okay. What are you paying to produce all of that social? So there's going to be a cost to acquire that customer. This 40% is that.
Yes.
It has not increased the cost to buy a home. That's stupid and moronic. Now, the disclosure is obviously going to be something a court's going to have to decide. There is a disclosure that consumers, when they go on Zillow, fill out. And so, the court's going to have to work through that on what needs to be disclosed and all of that. Now, the agents are the ones ultimately signing the fee structure with a customer. So certainly we had already litigation about that. Those fees are presented ahead of home tours. Now a consumer makes a decision. I'm not sure how much more clear that could be. So does an agent not only have to outline their split to their broker, what they're paying to acquire the lead through Zillow, split to broker? How about expenses? How far into the P&L should a consumer have access? It kind of opens up all of that. I'll give you one more angle on this, and I'm curious where you're going to take this, but another angle is I'm seeing a ton of agents celebrate like how bad of a week Zillow has had. Jared James had a clip about that we can even play here that, hey, Zillow's had a bad week. And agents are like, wow, Zillow's going to get toppled.
Okay, guys, it has not been a good week for Zillow. Like, you think you're having a bad week? Try being Zillow right now. And that's on top of some of the DMs that I've been getting from you guys that I want to address with you to see if this is accurate or not. But think about this for a second. If you're Zillow in the last week, your main competitor, your main nemesis, so to say, Compass, just became, if everything goes through, the largest real estate company in the world by more than double. You have a new lawsuit coming from an ex-employee who is saying that different sexual harassment and these kind of complaints that were made were completely ignored. So that's a whole other thing that's going on there. And on top of that, you have another lawsuit about your Zillow Flex program and the idea that it's artificially inflating commissions and all this stuff that's going on. I'm getting DMs from many of you right now that are Flex agents and otherwise that are saying that you're being told by your reps at Zillow, and I even heard a phone call, I've seen different messages, and if you do not refer over and at least 10% of your clients do not close with Zillow Home Loans, then your leads start to get moved on to somebody else. And if that's the case, guys, I mean, we're talking about steering, you're talking about RESPA, you're talking about all this other kind of stuff, and it's just not a good week for them. Are any of you experiencing that? Like, are any of you? Because again, I've gotten many messages from people who are telling me this is actually happening, showing me facts, showing me data, showing me, recorded phone calls, all this stuff. I'd love to hear from you guys. And again, just when you think you might be having a bad week, at least you're not Zillow right now because they're having a bad week.
I'll tell you, this is like not going to be, that $1 billion that hit all the brokerages and the association in settlements is why the rules are being rewritten, because they're weak and they're vulnerable and they're wounded. And a lot of the brokerages and a lot of the, power players in this industry do not have the ability to get back up off the mat and fight this.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of stuff for Zillow, while it'll maybe pull them away from core activities or be a little bit of a distraction, is only going to make them bigger. Okay, if they get into litigation where they have to change rules, they can change rules better and bigger than anybody. And I'll just tell you, you may not like the new rules that they decide to inflict on the industry if some of these things don't go their way. What do you think is going to happen? Oh, you have to disclose this, and they're going to just like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be handing off leads altogether, Tom. Maybe we should just make our site open source and make it a free public square and just sell banner ads. What do you think Zillow's going to do if they're attacked? They're going to completely change everything, and you won't like potentially the outcome. So hold your cheers just a little bit on this one.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points here, Byron. So just let's go to the data, right? So Zillow right now, depending on who you look at, they have a market cap anywhere from, Google has it at 16.51 billion, Yahoo has it at 10.604 billion. I mean, so they've got a lot more money than NAR had, right? I believe NAR kind of said we settled because we didn't know if we could afford it. That's not going to be a problem that Zillow has. Like, I want to be like, they may settle strategically for other reasons. Money's not going to be one of them. So that's,
and there's precedent on kind of what this settlement might cost up to $1 billion.
Okay. So now they're at a $15.51 billion cap, according to Google. So, I mean, that's number one. You got a great point there. Secondly, you go on Zillow's website and it says right here, I'm looking at a listing, listed by, and they have the agent's name, their cell phone number, and their company. This is the disclosure that everyone agreed on already. This had to happen, that you had to have that sourced. And that's just not Zillow. That's every website. So they have a disclosure, like you said. This idea that costs are getting inflated. Well, you've talked about the race to the bottom. There's some agents that they intentionally go lower. They're flex partners. They just want to get the business. Sometimes, there's people that aren't following the rules and don't get anything signed. I've seen that happen. So this, again, it's agent behavior that's part of the regulation. So we know that's the case. And then on top of this, the people that cheer on Zillow, they're usually the agents that are saying they stole our listings, they stole our business. No, what those people wanted was a
You gave them
closed.
to them.
Well, they gave them to them, but they want the MLS book back. Maybe they want I protect all the information. That's not where the world's going in 2025. That's not how it's going to
Wow.
be. It's never going. I
Could
mean,
be.
maybe Compass does, right? That's a whole other
Yeah,
discussion. But we're past that now. And the fact is that if you don't know how to source your own business, and Zillow's a great lead pillar for a lot of people, it's a great way to get started. Relocation companies, they charge these excessive referral fees. Are they going to be the next lawsuit? I mean, do we have to disclose that to people? I think your point
Well,
of
how about agent to agent referrals?
yeah. I mean, it's the same
Those
thing.
are, how many of those are disclosed that the referring agent is getting a referral? I mean, how many consumers are signing off on that?
What about, Rocket was doing a referral model for a while. I mean, there's, all these referral networks that are out there that do Google I mean, are we going to disclose all these things? Like, it's not just a Zillow thing. It's throughout the industry.
Agents that cheer for this, and then jump on a Facebook group 5 minutes later begging for a referral with 15 other commenters. Think about it. Think about what's happening here. That's
sounds like a hypocritical behavior, Byron. That's what I would call it.
I don't. So Jared's obviously a friend. Bad week for Zillow is kind of, you don't want to be in all these different lawsuits. Zillow might be looking at this as opportunity. Hey, this might be the chance for us to do something that we've been maybe holding back on doing for a long time, and take even more control of okay, you want us to disclose everything? Okay, maybe we go, Compass just bought Anywhere. Maybe we go buy a highly profitable brokerage. Like, listen to what I'm saying.
I was going there next. You took the words right out of my mouth.
What if Zillow goes and, hey, who's Zillow been very cozy with lately? What if they could just go and buy a EXP? I'm not saying that that's happening. I'm just saying, what if they do? What if they did that? EXP is number one in transactions. Compass and Anywhere have 1 and 2 in volume, so they got the volume game, but nobody does more units. They have a global reach. If Zillow's got some other global ambitions there. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's going to be the move. That's been something that has been talked about for a couple of decades. I wouldn't be cheering Zillow being put into a corner. They're not a little poodle being put into a corner. They're a pit bull.
They are a pit bull, but I mean, and there's always these rumors and theories. Hey, they're going to hire their own agents. They're going to do all this stuff. Well, all of a sudden, these people that are saying, I don't buy leads. Well, they do buy leads. They buy them in different ways. That now you're kind of shut out of the market, and you can't do that. And there's a lot of agents that have built their career on closing online leads, and now you've taken the biggest aggregator of them and closed the door for them. That's not a good thing. So, and most agents don't have the skill to go out and they say they don't like Zillow because they don't build their skills to go out and be able to produce only on sweat equity or bring in their own business. They don't want to write that check, Byron. They want to pay it on the back end. That's the reality of most agents.
Yeah. Well, because what's not going to change is the fact that consumers are going to consistently use Zillow.com for their home search. The complaint cites Zillow's 66% market share in that category, the home search. That's not going to change. So they've already, as Gary Vee said years ago, they've already won because of brand. It's so powerful. It's not as if they're going to get caught up in some lawsuit and consumers are going to stop using the app. So if they have the traffic, they always have the positional power to pivot and use that traffic to their advantage. I don't know. I don't think this is going to go the direction a lot of people think it's going to.
Well, there was a quote I saw I forget where it was, about Nakia Wright talking about, she did some interview that NAR is trying to outrun irrelevance. Zillow doesn't have
Yeah.
that problem.
No, they don't have that problem.
It's the complete opposite. Where they don't have all these things going on in the background that are distracting them. It's not a boys club. They are a for-profit business that has dominated the market and has a $16.5 billion market cap. It's not the same.
How do you outrun irrelevance, Nikia? Every single week you get on a pod like this and you start speaking directly to your members, not once in a blue moon on a stage for 15 minutes and say the same line that you did back at Housing Wire in the spring. We're trying to outrun irrelevance, because then you go hide for 2-3 months and it's obvious you're irrelevant. You're not even in the discussion of who's creating the new rules. What did we just talk about? We talked about Compass and how they're going to leverage all these anywhere brands to rewrite rules. Zillow, you want to push them into a corner. They're not going away. They're going to come back with a vengeance and have a say on writing rules. Rocket and Redfin are writing the rules. You're going to have 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 mega cap companies that are going to be enormous. 3-4 years from now, these caps are going to look small. They're going to swallow up a lot more companies, and they're going to write the rules. And NAR is sitting there saying, oh, guys, can I come to happy hour at least and get 5 minutes with you? That's it. They're done. And Zillow's not going to get hurt by a lawsuit like this. They're only going to pivot and be a stronger force. So to me, you think this is bad for Zillow? I think this might be bad for you.
Well, you look at Zillow's history, right? I mean, how many times have we seen them pivot since you and I have been working with them? I mean, it was, we can jump in the DeLorean and go back to Boston in 2018 when, Lisa, verbally assaulted Greg Schwartz about their pivot. And we can look at how they were iBuyers, right? They pivoted off of that. They went from zip codes to market share to flex. I mean, they've been constantly evolving, which is what great companies do. And this is not a pro Zillow thing. This is how you read any business book. Evolution and adjustment is the game right now, my friends. And so if you're not thinking about that and you don't think Zillow's already got a plan in place, I got some news for you. They've made NAR irrelevant. They've made a lot of companies irrelevant because they know how to bring in business, which most agents struggle to do, but then they complain about it instead of actually taking any action.
Yeah, I've been historically correct on this for a long time. We were in Scottsdale. First time I ever went to Scottsdale was 2017 when Greg Haig, who started 72sold.com, flew me out there.
You debated him, right?
We debated on Facebook Live. The first ever Real Word podcast was during the time frame back in 2017 that he had started the Stop Zillow campaign. And the very first podcast, I choose that as a topic. I'm like, this guy's going to fail. He's not going to build a portal. He's taking agents' money. It's like a GoFundMe, basically, before GoFundMes existed. Agents were donating into this campaign of Stop Zillow, and he was going to build a portal alternative. And I frankly said in the very first Real Word ever, I said, this is going to fail. Here's the reasons why. If you're an agent donating money, you're going to lose your money and get no benefits out of this. We did a Facebook debate. He flew me out there. Come to find out, he was trying to get on the BAMCamp stage. Greg, I don't know why you just didn't call me. I'm not mad at you. I'm just historically right on our debate. And why am I saying these things right now about Zillow? Because I'm going to be historically right while everybody else is emotionally triggered. So I'll be able to play this back in 5 years when Zillow makes the moves that they're going to make over the next 24, 48 months. And I'll be historically right again, instead of complaining, getting emotionally triggered, saying, oh, Zillow's going to go down. Those are moronic statements. It's not going to happen. They've won the battle of brand. When you have brand in your back pocket, you can do a lot with it. Okay. What does Sharon say? Fame is the best currency you can get. It's not Bitcoin. It's not, USD. It's fame. And Zillow has it, which means they've got the traffic and they will. And they can make mistakes when they have the traffic. They can do dumb things like, buying homes overpriced, and they can recover very easily because they've got the brand. And so this is why, we're going to get comments right now, Tom. We always do.
Oh, we're Zillow apologists or whatever you want to call it. Byron, you said something there. You don't have a problem when you can buy your way out of it. I mean, I think that's really important to understand here. It's not just the brand. Their brand has led to revenue. Revenue and capital is a weapon, and NAR didn't have it, and they got beat up in the lawsuit. These guys do. I mean, it's that simple.
You know, if they've got to go through a lot of different disclosures, well, you know, it'll disclosures will be streamlined if they buy EXP, and EXP is not for sale. I'm just using that as an example because of the close relationship and because of how many units they would want a unit mover. They'd want to be in every single state. But you know, and disclosure's fine with me. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying you're cheering on change, and with change actually provides opportunity to those that have been best at creating change, which is companies like Zillow.
Yep. All right. Jerome Powell said something. We got like a minute here. There was a speech.
He was in Rhode Island this week.
Rhode Island. Yeah. I mean, not as nice as Jackson Hole, but that's where he was. So
not in Warwick, no.
So Jerome Powell said the economy is showing resilience in the midst of substantial changes in trade and immigration policies, as well as in fiscal, regulatory, and geopolitical arenas. And he left room for additional easing, noting that policy is still modestly restrictive on growth after jobless claims hit 218,000 below the estimate, despite fears of labor market weakness. GDP posted a gain of 3.8% in the second quarter, up a half a percentage point from the prior estimate because they made an upward revision to consumer spending, and it was down $14,000 from the prior week and less than the estimate of 235,000 when it came to jobless claims. Still, I think we're going to see two more rate cuts. They're going to pull the play from last year where they do 25, 25, 25, call it a day, and Jerome Powell's going to be sipping hot cocoa on Christmas Eve, thinking he did his job. I would have liked him to say something a little differently, but Byron, you're the you and him are apparently text buddies now. I'm kidding, so
he did say something. He did say something of value.
I thought it was something of value.
He finally acknowledged that tariffs have not induced a rocket ship of inflation the way he suggested, or input fear into the market, or certainly the way analysts who were partisan analysts suggested that tariffs would just accelerate inflation. The economy was supposed to be completely dormant right now because of tariffs. And instead, GDP is ripping at 3.8. GDP is suggesting a much stronger economy. The weekly unemployment numbers move down. Okay. So that's not going to help rates either, by the way. The rates were actually getting momentum because of the weakening labor market. I don't want a weakening labor market, but that's where the momentum was coming. So the economy just appears to be a lot stronger than many want you to believe. And it's showing up in GDP. It showed up in weekly unemployment. It showed up in PCE this week, came in line with expectations. Tariffs are not creating an inflation runaway, and they are creating revenue at the same time. And what I said about tariffs from day one, like if they don't work, it's a light switch. You could turn it off, but why are they not turning it off? It's apparently working. So those probably stay, and we probably have a longer run of getting rates to where we want them. And, if they do two more cuts, which is still the projection here, and Powell kind of, alluded to that. And now you enter the year with about 4.5 months, but until Powell is out. So you probably enter 26 knowing who the next Fed chairperson is. And the market probably reacts to that, knowing that, whoever Trump appoints is going to be pro cutting. And so that come May, June next year, you're getting more cuts, which could fuel, a lower rate into the future. But it's going to be kind of a lot of what we've seen, I think, in the short term.
Bumpy ride for sure. 85.5% chance we're going to see 25 basis points cut at the October meeting. 67.3% chance that at the December meeting will be between 350 and 375, which is 50 basis points lower than we are right now. So it looks like the odds are that we see 25-25, and then Jerome Powell packs it in for the year. So,
Tom, do you have time for a couple BAM Camp takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I got a
Reaction?
few minutes. Yeah.
What's your reaction?
So BAM
BAM
Camp,
Camp Scottsdale.
I always find the masterminds are very impactful when people have the courage, and I think, to get real with their business, because unfortunately, and Byron, you kicked off the BAM Camp by saying this, the event. There's a lot of people out there that give you a lot of advice, but you got to be very careful who you listen to in real estate, because oftentimes they're trying to sell you something, not help you with their business. Oftentimes they're trying to give you some theory that works instead of what's actually worked for 25 years or 20 years or something like that. So that, I thought, I give a lot of all those people that got up at the masterminds major credit for doing that. Hopefully they'll implement what they heard. I mean, we ran the business side one. I know Eric and Luke and Tessa and Chris Benjamin, they ran the marketing side, and which I thought is very impactful. What I also really liked, Lisa Chinati, I'm going to give Lisa some credit here, talking about generating business from AI. I think this is something agents need to pay attention to. It's a mistake if you're not doing that. And I loved your conversation with George. He was actually the person I was most excited to see, because he's an operator. He's in his business. He's in the trenches, and you don't see him at a lot of events. So that was all good stuff there. But basically the main thing is when you go to these events, if you're not going to do anything, you're just wasting your time. And I think that's the most important thing. You had some great scripting stuff that we've talked about on the role plays here with BAMX that we have on Tuesdays. So that was
get on the BAMX role plays, because now that the BAM Camp presentation is behind us, we can just like unleash all of that. We've been BAMX members have been getting access to it the last couple of weeks, but we're going to keep going in that direction where we work through the scripting on the listing presentation stuff. And we do that Tuesday mornings. Myself, Tom, and Lisa run the role play for BAMX members only. Yep. But you mentioned George Lawton, which obviously was a big part of the reason we did this in Scottsdale, the relationship with, Navi Title convincing us to go out there, and George being a part of this. Those were two main attractors to doing a regional event, a BAM camp in, Scottsdale. George is one of the most brilliant operators, and we're going to have him on Knowledge Brokers here coming up, but he's one of the most brilliant operators in our business. From an independent brokerage standpoint, operating as a team, the organization of how he thinks is exceptional.
Yes.
He'd do well in any business, but in particular, those that signed up, the 64 people who signed up for the morning mastermind, they got half their time on the content side, half their time on the business side with us, and being able to have access to some of the insights that George offered to the constraints in their business. The price of admission into the mastermind, I think, was like $400. And, the advice that George was giving out saves people tens of thousands, if not, the investment to have access to a George Lawton like that. There's a lot of people that pay $10,000. So just the fact that George and you and Lisa and Dave Richards, who actually trains a lot of George's leadership team on the business side, and Justin Benson from Shiloh being a part of that, just being willing to give that time to everybody that signed up for that experience was really awesome to see. And those are the kind of rooms. The whole reason that we have this podcast is obviously because of our friend Tom Ferry, and putting me, you, and Lisa in rooms together where, rooms like, Tom has hosted, or rooms that, other events and things that we've gone to, that we've built this relationship up over time by investing in our business. And, there's no other way, you're not going to become friends with somebody on a DM. And so, there's time in your business to go out there and create those relationships in those rooms. And like Alex Ramosi always says, like, man, the best, information I got, the the skill separators, the building relationships were getting into rooms like that. I mean, that's, him and Sharon, same kind of story, meeting, in that way, investing in yourself. And so, I think that was really cool to see. And I'm just glad it went well and Eric didn't screw anything up.
Well, he started crying at the beginning when he introduced me. I don't know what that was about, but that's a whole nother reason.
Listen, think about it. Eric's been grinding out the broke agent for 10 plus years. And to be in his home state of Arizona and doing an event. And I mean, people, when we did BAM camp and it was, there was a huge regional draw, but to hear some of the like OG BAMers, and shout out to you guys, people that listen to Knowledge Brokers every single week that flew in for the event, dude, totally appreciate you and just amazing to see. And I think that's why Eric's like, man, this thing is coming together. We're breaking down some of the gates that have been kept for so long in this industry. BAM's whole mission is like, let's give everything away for free. No paywalls on the articles. If we're going to do the work for you, then that's why BAMX exists. Like, get the consulting, get the, the content templates. It's all in BAMX, and all of that. But, we wanted to do things differently, break the rules of this industry and have a part from our perch, maybe have a part in some of these rules that are being rewritten right now in the industry. Because for so long they've been kept to a few.
Yeah. What I love too is, I mean, you think people go and, I present it, right? Very honored to do that. I've got like 4 pages of notes, Byron. Like, this is not like, I didn't go there like, all right, I'm going to do my thing and then not pay attention. When you're in a room like that, you get 2 or 3 things that can change your business. We've already got stuff we're implementing. I was texting yesterday on the way home. Hey, what about this? What about that? Like, I mean, that's the difference between people that are high achievers and maybe ones that go to these things and don't implement anything is you got to start doing it like right away. And what I also loved about BAM Camp is it's an agnostic group of people. I think there's too many events that are, hey, this is our company. This is that. I mean, I'm with Remax. You're with Ravis. Lisa's got her own brokerage. George got his own thing going. We had Shiloh there. A lot of great spot, and these CEOs were in the room giving advice, right? I mean,
Chris Benjamin is with his family owns an independent. Tess is obviously. So from a speaker perspective, you had diversity across brands. From an audience perspective and topics, absolutely. It wasn't. People look at BAM, they're like, oh, it's going to be heavy content. No, it was 50-50 business topics and content topics. I mean, it was a great mix between the two ends of the spectrum. And from an audience perspective, very diverse across brands as well. Like some conferences you go to and it's like, wow, it's 50% one brand happens to, be in attendance of this or whatever. Obviously not the case. So you get a great mix up of, different perspectives and conversations happening in the room.
Yeah. And you're right about the 50-50 split because my son who came with me told me he was totally bored by the business side, but really liked the marketing stuff. So he thought we were chopped liver. But that was
Sharon gave cool. So Leo Toole was in attendance, front row with Tom when Tom was not speaking. And
he left during my talk. Did you know that? He got up and went to the bathroom and didn't come back. Like I'm not kidding. He's like, your stuff's boring, Dad. I'm here for the marketing. And that's what he came.
That's great. And so Leo, Sharon, when Sharon was kicking off his keynote to end the entire event, asked Leo to stand. It was beautiful. That was a awesome. Beautiful moment there.
We should have thought of that. That was our
12 years old.
Yes. 13 next month. A great event, Byron. Next time you get a chance to go to a BAM event, invest in yourself. That would be my advice. I mean, and you got to get a little uncomfortable to grow in this business. I remember the first couple events I went to, I didn't know anybody, right? I mean, you don't need, and you get embraced by these communities because people are there to get better. And you'd be surprised the level of contribution that folks, I mean, some of the advice is like, it's just straight to it. There's no secrets. It's just, here's what works and here's what to do.
Yeah. Sold out 4 weeks before we did it. So next time, obviously just, if you're thinking about going to one, get in the beginning. Yeah. All right, Tom. We'll get Lisa back next week, I think.
Yeah, she's got a meeting or something going on today, but she spent her time at BAM camp, so you could have heard her then.
That's right. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out this week's Knowledge Brokers podcast. If you want to take what we're doing here at BAM and use it in your own business, join us over at School. We just switched BAMX into the #1 education and community platform. Go to school.com/BAMX or hit the link in the description, school.com/BAMX. I'll see you in the community.